Hey fellow creators, welcome back to PiXelateD Creations. Today we're diving deep into the world of cinematic magic. So get ready to unlock a world of visual possibilities and to explore the powerful tool that's been making waves in the field of film and photography. We are talking about Dehancer, the film emulation plugin and the game changer that brings the timeless charm of analog film into the digital age. But does it live up to the hype? And would it be the secret sauce you've been searching for to make your visuals and pictures pop? Let's see. In this video, we will be uncovering every facet from its stunning film emulation to its user-friendly interface. We will push it to the limits, examining how it transforms ordinary images into something truly extraordinary. So sit back, relax and enjoy. Without wasting further time, let's get started. Now that we are in Photoshop and before getting into the Dehancer plugin, we need to make some pre-editing adjustments to achieve the best possible results. So let's check that first. So first you check whether you have opted the right color settings for your edits. So go to edit and check the color settings, whether you have opted the sRGB, this one, and just check all of these settings. Next, go to edit preference and camera raw and check whether you have the same sRGB 2.1 and you have selected the 16-bit channel. I think it is coming by default, so there's not a big deal. So I would recommend you to use a TIFF format image so that you get all your details with the best quality without any artifacts or anything. And after all your pre-basic adjustments of cropping and everything, just open your camera raw by using shortcut Ctrl Shift and A. And if you're having like an overexposed image, you can use these settings recommended by the Dehancer team to get the best possible results. Just reduce the exposure by -1 and the contrast by -40. Next, increase the blacks to +60. I'm not using it because mine is already like kind of plain image, so it's best fit for the Dehancer plugin. If your image is like overexposed, then you might get an underexposed effect after applying some profiles in the Dehancer plugin. So this would be the best results as recommended by them. And that's pretty much it. And after all your edits, pre-editing adjustments, and after all, just go to filter, Dehancer, and select the Dehancer film, which will be opening the Dehancer plugin right away and will be applying your last edit. If you just don't want it, just go back to original, that's all. So first we can take a quick tour of the plugin user interface. So on the left side you can see the profiles tab, in which there are all the film emulation profiles. Along with that, on the right side you can see options to adjust and tune the selected profiles, and we'll come to that later. And on the right side we can see the presets, which there are all the pre-built presets coming with the plugin. It's from the Dehancer team, and I guess there are also presets from the third-party editors, and you can also save your own profiles after your adjustments and edits as a preset to use it in your future editing purpose. Next, we can see a button to collapse and expand the left tab, which will be useful to see a full screen preview of your edit. And along with that, on the right side you can see a settings wheel in which you can update your film profiles, as on the first install you won't be getting any of the profiles as it is not coming with the installer or a pre-built feature. You can remotely download the profiles using this option, and along with that you can see license info, in which you can activate or deactivate your plugin. And next you can see a drop down menu to select your desired graphics card. If you are using multiple GPUs in your system, you can choose the one you are using for editing purposes to get a faster preview and results. And that's pretty much it on the settings wheel. You can close it. Next you can see option to restore your last used settings. If you use any last used settings, you can just use it to revert it back to your last settings. Next you can see option to reset all the settings to default, which means you will be able to revert all the settings, adjustments, profiles, everything back to your original raw image. Next coming the undo and redo button, which comes with shortcut Z and Shift Z. And on the right side you can see the 1:1 ratio button. If you just custom scaled your image to take a preview, you can use it to revert it back to the 1:1 ratio, or even to 100% zoom to get a closer look on your edit. And you're also getting a toggle button to see the before and after results of your edit, which is pretty much handy as it is on the top side. You can use it whenever you want. in between your edits. Next, coming the cancel and OK button. If you're satisfied with your edit and all done to get back to the Photoshop, you can just click OK and it will automatically redirect you to the Photoshop. And if you're not satisfied, you can just click cancel and just go back to Photoshop and continue your editing purpose. And that's it. We pretty much covered the user interface. Now let's move to the main editing section. So let's get to the main editing section, and on your left side you can see profiles tab. And yeah, that's one more thing related to profiles. Like if you don't want to apply any of your profiles but want a specific effect, then you can just toggle off this film profile, and from among the settings or the effects or adjustments you can use it individually. Like for example, if you want only the film grain in your image, then you can just toggle on the film grain. You can play with the settings to like use the film grain. We'll come to that later in our main section. And after that you can click OK and just continue editing process on the Photoshop. That's pretty much easy, right? So we don't want it now, we'll come to that directly. So on your profiles tab we can toggle profiles on. As I shown you before, there are lots of film profiles and you can even filter out them as per the category, the color negative, motion picture, color positive, black and whites, and many more. So for this one, as I experimented it earlier, I know which one's going to fit perfect. I'm going to use the color negative, the Kodak Gold 200, which is like a best one for this, as it gives like a warm effect to the picture. So let's use the Kodak Gold 200, and right below it you can see a push pull exposure slider. If you're like familiar with the film cameras, you know that there's a lot of difference between film and digital. So like for example, in digital cameras, if you like increase the exposure, you can see an increase in the exposure, obviously. But in the film camera, that's not the same deal. Like in film cameras, if you just increase the exposure, you can get a darker effect on your output. There are exceptions, but yeah. So let's see what happens if we like overexpose the exposure slider in our Kodak Gold 200. Like we can try changing it to 1. So as I said earlier, like we can see a darker effect on our film stock. That's what I was talking. Not only that, but you can also lose details while adjusting the slider, so use it wisely. So we don't want it now, we'll just change it back to 0 and continue. So let's check the adjustments one by one. So first of all, we are getting a source adjustment window in which you are getting another again option to adjust the exposure compensation. Like you can use it to adjust the exposure, the basic thing. We don't want it, we can use this revert button to change that entire source window to the default settings. And the next we can see a temperature button, which you can get from like the cool effect to the extreme warm one. So if you want, you can adjust it. I'm going to give a little bit of warmth, like giving the value of 1 to get a little bit warm, which will match this image, I guess. Next comes the tint. You're also getting a tint, which are like the basic things you'll also get in Photoshop. We can just change it back to 0 as we don't want it. And next comes the defringe slider. So basically the defringe is the chromatic aberration you get in some image. Like if you already made some pre-editing adjustments in your camera rows, you might have removed it. But even after you are getting chromatic aberration, means you can use this slider to remove it or add it. And connecting to that, you are getting a radius slider too. So we don't need to use it as our image is already like on the perfect condition. So let's collapse it and expand the film developer option. So film developer and film compression, these are the two settings the Dehancer team just recently added. And in this one you can see a contrast boost slider. Just revert it. And next you can see a gamma correction and color separation and a color boost. So let's see the color boost one. So color boost is just like the saturation slider, which you can use to increase and decrease the saturation in your image. If you want, you can increase the saturation. Let's increase it to like 1.5 for our image. You won't be seeing any much visual changes in your image, but yeah, there is some. I don't know how much you can see in these videos and stuff. Now let's collapse the film developer and come to the film compression. In this compression menu, you are getting a master slider, the impact one. Even if you change these settings, you will be able to control the whole settings using the master slider. Just simple as that. You are getting a white point total range, using to like fade and give a moody effect to your image, and a color density slider. As I told earlier, you are also getting a master slider, which is like pretty handy in this case. So we don't want it, we just uncheck it and collapse it. Next comes the expand menu. In the expand menu, you are getting the option to increase decrease shadows and highlights, which is termed as black points and white points. We'll just check it. You can use this slider to increase the shadows or the black points in your image, and the vice versa. Same goes to the white point too. Let's revert it back, and you're also getting color mode, normal and luma in this. So we'll come to the expand menu later after we complete the print section. So let's collapse the expand and come to the print option. So in the print menu, you're getting option to select your printing profiles. You can see the Fujifilm and Kodak profiles in this print option. At the time of recording, there are only like 4 profiles, but maybe by the time you're watching it, they might have added more. And the same goes to profiles. I think there are only like 63 profiles at the time of recording, and same goes by the time you're watching it, there may be more. You can just go to settings and try the update film profiles. If there's an update, it will download it automatically. So in this print profile, you can see the normal 3 films and a glossy paper profile output. So for this one, I'm going to choose the Endura glossy paper. Inside the film profile, you are getting a slider to adjust the exposure according to the selected print profile. You can use it to adjust the exposure and the tonal contrast. You can use the C to undo your changes, and a color density, and again a saturation slider. And after your print adjustments, the Dehancer team just recommends to go back to expand and change the black points and white points if your image is reacting a little bit more to the shadows and highlights. After that, let's come to the color head, the CMY color head. If you're familiar with the film cameras, you may be knowing the color head CMY. They're basically the instruments used in the dark film room at the time of processing. So what it does is like you'll be getting 3 controllers to adjust the cyan, magenta and yellow colors, which basically does is a little bit confusing, but yeah, if you like increase the yellow slider, it will be decreasing the yellow presence in the image, and same goes to the magenta and cyan. If you increase the slider, it will be reducing that color presence in that image. I know it is a little bit confusing, but they made it simpler using the slider termed as yellow to blue. So like if you are increasing the yellow slider, it will slightly reduce the yellow presence in the image and increase the blue presence. Same goes to the magenta, green and cyan. So let's try adjusting a little bit to our image also. We can reduce a little bit magenta in this one and add a little bit of yellow, and let's add a little bit of red too. Let's try reverting the yellow back to a little bit of blue, which is looking pretty much good. And next you are getting the shadow tone slider, which you can adjust the shadow tones, like giving it a warmth and cooler effect. For this one, I'm selecting a little bit warmth, like let me give the value 10, which will match it perfect. Next you are getting the mid-tone slider and highlights tone slider. You can play with these settings to get the best results possible as per your image and as per your profile selected. And next we are getting preserve exposure slider, which basically the plugin preserves the exposure while adjusting or tuning the shadows, midtones and highlights. Revert it back to 0, and let's see, like you can see like a little bit of overexposure in this image, and when we increase the preserve exposure to the 100, you can literally see the change in your screen. I don't think I need to explain it more. And you can also see a master slider, just as we saw in the film compressions menu, which you can use to adjust all the settings just applied above. which gives you more control over the CMY color head option. You can always play with these settings to get the best results as possible. Next comes the film grain. Okay, let's wait. We'll come to the film grain at the last after all the edits. That would be like perfect. So next comes the halation and bloom. So for this image, I don't think halation and bloom will be that much effective and noticeable. So I think I'll show you with a different image so that you can notice the change, the effect this plugin is adding. So next we can just directly jump to the vignette effect. To get the better control over the vignette effect, I would just recommend you to turn the feather to 0, adjust the size you want the vignette effect, the exposure. After all these edits, after all the vignette and exposure settings, aspect ratio, you just turn the feather to 100, so that you will get the maximum control over the vignette effect. So now let's jump to the film grain effect. So in the film grain effect, you are getting a tons of options: the size, amount, resolution, shadows, midtone, highlights, and even the color option. So first let's take the size. You can see the size of the noise grains is added, and film grain is one of the important factor in the image captured in a film camera, which gives a moody and nostalgic feel to the image that we see. So let's play with the settings. We can keep the size to 2, and we can also increase the amount. I think 15 would be a better choice. Next, the resolution. For it to see, we can just zoom in the image. You can see the resolution changes that just took place in this image. So we can just keep the resolution at 5. That would be perfect. So next comes the shadows, midtones, and highlights slider, which is only affecting the grains. Okay, not the main image, but only the grains. You can see when we adjust the shadows how the film grains are affecting, and you can always play with these settings to get the best results. And next comes the color option, which is like an important option. Now you can only see the plain noise. The film grain we just added is just a plain noise, and if we toggle the color, you can see the RGB factors in it, which may be like best match for some image. I'm just leaving it in the maximum 100, and you can also select the film type, node, etc. from here. So now our image is ready, so let's see the before and after results. This is the before and this is the after. That's a huge change, and that's pretty much it. We just came to an end of editing our first image. We just added the source, film developer, the recent option added by the Dehancer team, the expand one, print, color head, film grain, and vignette effect. And halation and bloom will come to that later in a different image, as it won't be suiting to this one much perfect, and you won't be able to notice the halation and bloom effect adds to it. So I'll be using a different image to show you that effect. And about this one, I think we pretty much came to an end, and let's see the results. So in this one, I just specifically took this image to show you the halation and bloom effect. For that, we can take the color negative sign still 800D, which would be a perfect choice, as it is having some neon kind of effects and it's perfect syncing. So we can just directly come to the halation one. So halation is basically like the reddish orange light. It just adds to the exposed area in your image. Like if you just look closely, you can see a reddish orange shade near to the highlights. If you want to see it more specifically, you can use the mask mode, which will only reveal the areas where it just added the halation effect, which basically adds like a dreamy effect to your image. And you can also see many options like global diffusion. Let's go to mask mode. Let's decrease the local diffusion, increase the global, adjust this one a little bit. You just uncheck the mask mode and you can see a drastic change in your halation effect. Let's uncheck this and let's move to the bloom effect. As I said, bloom is also like almost similar to halation. Bloom is like just adding a glow effect, like a glow or dreamy effect to the exposed areas or the area which are ready to get exposed. You know what I mean? In this gas station we can see some kind of lights similar to neon one. We can use the mask mode. You can change the amplify details. Let's keep the details at 75 and decrease the source limiter. You can see it is glowing up. Now let's uncheck the mask mode and you can see it's almost similar to the halation one without the reddish orange like dreamy effect. You can just use the preview toggle button to check the before after results. These are just the basic settings to add this glow effect in your image. And that's pretty much it. I think we covered all of the Dehancer plugin effects and presets. So now let's explore the Dehancer website. And here you have the option to download a free trial version of the plugin for a duration of 2 weeks, which you will get access to the plugin before making a purchase. And at the top of the page you will find various options like videos, photos and many more. And in the video option you will find Dehancer plugin designed for video editing apps like PremierPro, Davinci Resolve, Final Cut and many more. And for additional information you can check the system requirements option. And in the photo section you will find the Dehancer plugin for images, and the compatible apps are listed below. For more information you can check the system requirements and select the desired apps, and you can see all the software and hardware requirements to use the Dehancer plugin. When purchasing the plugin you can use the code PiXelateD Creations to enjoy a flat 10% discount, and this code isn't limited to the photo plugin alone but also work with other variants of the plugin including the video version. Just don't forget to add the code PiXelateD Creations before you make a purchase, and you can use this code every time you make a purchase and there's not like any particular limit. So for me, using the Dehancer plugin was a lot of fun, and I played around with the settings and got some fantastic results. And if you also love that old vintage film look, this plugin is perfect for you. And one of the great things is that when I checked their previous and latest version, they were updating the app frequently. Like they were not even the shortcuts option in their previous version, they just added in their latest versions. And I hope they add more options and profiles in the latest future updates. And the only small issue I found was the preview window, that it just limits to that particular area. Even if we toggle the left show hide profile tab, it just stays limited to that particular section and not coming to the full screen, which may not be problem for some but may be an issue for those who want to get a closer look onto their edit. It would be like better to have a full screen preview. I wish they would add it in the future updates. So if you want to give your photos that cinematic touch, definitely try out Dehancer. It's a handy tool that gives you images a vintage feel. And guys, one more thing, this is not a sponsored video. The Dehancer team just provided me with a copy of their plugin to make a video on it to share the honest opinions and reviews about the app. And thanks for watching. So please make sure to like, share and subscribe to PiXelateD Creations, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Thank you for watching and see you in the next.